Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm going to read a post from the homepage dated 3/23 and 24/18. Open public letter to President Trump, CIA, FBI, Florida Highway Patrol, New York State Police, Governor Rick Scott, Pam Bondi, and everybody. Is this video, quote, the Navy's indoor ocean, quote, communicating the word or name Fong and or Bondi, Chiu, Deirdre, custom-made mask gold, and or Fong's YouTube channel, question mark. Is Fong's video communicating in the Shakespearean translation that Pam Bondi is putting on a mask and going sadistic on teenagers? Aren't the movies Mask with Cher, Bono, parentheses, does Bono mean Bondi, comma, Shakespearean, comma, and Miracle with Kurt Russell, both communicating that Pam Bondi is putting on a mask and going sadistic with teenagers, question mark. The purpose of this post is to try to make possible connections with past and or present Navy employees, Fong or who she may represent, parentheses, Shakespearean, parentheses, the Smith family, if they're related to Pam Bondi and or Pink, and New York State DFY group home parents, who the Smith family resided in the second house northeast from New York State Division for Youth group home. The group home was at 3 Hazelwood Place, therefore the Smith house was probably 7 Hazelwood Place in 1971. The Smiths moved out in a family with the father's name being Danny. The mother's name was Kathy, moved into 7 Hazelwood Place. Danny said he used to be in the Navy. There was a possible Chinese family that lived in a house on Hazelwood Place directly across the street from 3 Hazelwood Place in the early 1970s. Do you believe if the Smith family, Danny, some New York State DFY group home house parents and or assistant director, parentheses, Stan Gowen, parentheses, Donald Trump, and this Chinese family who may have owned or worked at a Chinese restaurant on Jericho Turnpike communicated with each other, and if their phone numbers prove this, question mark. Does this Chinese family have anything to do with YouTube video or the name Fong? NYSDFY opened up a new group home on Hickory Place. It was newly built. Bear with me. I'm trying to find my place. I'm using the cursor to scroll down. New York State DFY, NYSDFY, opened up a new group home on Hickory Place. It was newly built in approximately around 1972, parentheses, early 1970s, parentheses, comma. The house next door was built the same time, and both houses looked similar. Gene and Steve Gerasi, parentheses, not certain of spelling, were the full-time house parents in approximately 1973 and 1974. Steve drove a Volkswagen Bug and also a BMW. Gene drove an International Jeep, possibly an old post office Jeep. Gene told me that she used to be a nurse at Huntington Hospital. Gene and Steve had a son by the name of Doug. Steve told me that he was employed as a photographer while he was also the house parent for the NYSDFY group home on Hickory in 1973-1974. I am trying to identify former or undercover Navy men. Gene and Steve Gerasi were related to Kathy and Danny at 7 Hazelwood Place, Huntington, New York. I was told that Kathy and Gene were sisters and that they grew up in Valley Stream, New York. Gene and Kathy had a brother who was bald. I was told that he had cancer, and later on was told that he died of cancer. I believe that Gene and possibly Kathy rented a store on New York Avenue, Route 110, where they sold plants in approximately 1973 and 1974. Jean bought her plants from a greenhouse where Eric Haber was working. Eric Haber was a resident at the New York State Division for Youth Group Home at 3 Hazelwood Place at approximately in 1972 and 1973. He also attended a radio and TV repair course at LA Wilson Tech Board of Cooperative Education Center in the school year of 1972 and 1973. Mary and Johnny were weekend house parents at the Hickory Place, Huntington Station, or South Huntington home. I believe they were to be the full-time house parents in approximately 1974 when Gene and Steve were planning to leave as full-time house parents. Johnny told me he used to be in the Navy. Johnny drove a Chevrolet Blazer, and that Marianne and Johnny lived in the basement of one of their parents' home in one of the ice slips, parentheses, Central Ice, Central Ice Slip or East Ice Slip or West Ice Slip in Suffolk County. Marianne told me she used to be a teacher. Johnny drove a beer delivery truck. It was said that Danny became a weekend house parent at the home on Hickory Place and did stay at the house as a house father without a house mother for a weekend. Mr. Bob Barnett was the provisional director of the New York State Division for Youth Group Homes in approximately around 1972, 1973, and 1974. Barnett would visit 3 Hazelwood Place and the group home on Hickory at least once a week, every week. Mr. Barnett was possibly a supervisor for the New York State Division for Youth in Brooklyn before and after being a provisional director. In the 1980s and 1990s, Brenda Backey, parentheses, not certain of spelling, parentheses, was a part-time caseworker at the Nassau County Juvenile Detention Center while I was employed at the Nassau County Juvenile Detention Center. Brenda Backey was a full-time New York State Division for Youth field worker and told me that she knew Bob Barnett. There is presently a manager at the McDonald's in Tarpon Springs, Florida, with a tattoo on her left wrist. Is she related to Brenda Backey? Are some of the people in this post being identified in the Shakespearean translation and or indirect English in Valerie Fong's YouTube channel? Do you believe if James Franco of movies Annapolis, Flyboys, and The Interview look like Nicholas Cruz? And if so, do you believe it's a coincidence or they are communicating about Nicholas Cruz in the Shakespearean translation about his future as a man when he was a boy? Did Pasco County Sheriff Naco know Nicholas Cruz when he was a Broward County Deputy Sheriff? Did Sheriff Naco know Emma Gonzalez when he was a Broward County Deputy Sheriff? Is Sheriff Naco, having gone to some type of Navy Leadership Institute, important to the information of this post? Is Justin Lin related or linked to the Oriental people who lived at possibly 4 Hazelwood Place in approximately 1972? Thank you, George.